Okay, so in terms of the 5 faults, we've talked about laziness, our favorite one, and then forgetting the object, or not, being able to sustain the object in our meditation. So that's our next favorite one. Then the third one actually has 2 parts. One is excitement, and the other is laxity. Okay, so we know those very well. Okay, excitement is the mind that is distracted towards objects of attachment. Very curiously here, in this presentation by Maitreya Sangha, it really highlights excitement. It doesn't say anything about getting distracted by anger or wrong views or doubt or anything like that. So that's why I like to include both presentations, because together it seems to me to really flesh out the hindrances a little bit more. But it says that, in terms of the excitement, there's 2 kinds. There's one that's a very gross kind, where we're definitely off the object. And the other one is, once we've calmed that gross kind, we're on the object, but you can feel the mind begin to wiggle, and you can tell it's going to go off the object pretty soon. Okay, so that's a more subtle kind of excitement. Then in terms of laxity, again, there's a gross form, which is really where the mind is dull, not where you're drowsy and falling asleep, but just where the image isn't very clear. And then there is a more subtle form of laxity, which is the image is clear, but there's not an intensity to the clarity. And they say that many meditators, or not many meditators, but they say that it's easy for meditators to have this subtle form of clarity and not recognize it, and think that they've actualized serenity, Laxity. Oh, what did I say? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I hope the person who edits this makes it nice. Don't transcribe this literally, please. So, there's a subtle form of laxity that you can easily mistake as serenity, because there's clarity, but it's not very vivid and bright. It's not very intense. So they say to really be careful about that one. Okay? And the antidote to these 2 is, how did I translate it? As introspective awareness. Okay? Our friend Samprajana in Sanskrit that has so many different translations. Okay? So it's interesting that introspective awareness is said to be the antidote here, because in one way you would think it would be mindfulness to bring your mind back to the object. But here the reason they pinpoint the introspective awareness is because it is necessary in order to identify that you have either gross or subtle excitement, or to identify that you have either gross or subtle laxity. So it's the one that identifies that is going on in the mind. That's the function of the introspective awareness. And then after that, you apply the antidote. Okay? So, the actual particular antidote that is going to bring, eliminate those. So in the case of the gross or the coarse agitation or excitement, then because the mind's too energetic, you want to settle the mind, meditate on death, meditate on the disadvantages of samsara and so forth. Okay, of course, if you can just renew your mindfulness and get your mind back, that's the best thing to do. But when it's really strong, then you need to temporarily go off your object of serenity and do one of these reflection meditations on impermanence or death or defects of samsara, something like that. And then for the laxity one, there your mind, the energy's too low, so you need to meditate on something that's going to raise your energy, like meditating on precious human life, Buddha, nature, refuge, something that's going to lift your energy. Okay, so I think this is important to realize, because I know for a long time, like when my mind would get drowsy, then I would think about death. You know, like, oh, I'm going to die, I better, you know, kind of wake up. Because in some instances, like when you meditate on death, they give that as, you know, an antidote, you know, kind of, they say don't sleep because you're going to die. But in this case here, if your mind is too lethargic, then you want to give it some happy energy, uplifting energy, okay? So you don't meditate on death at that time, but something that's going to encourage and uplift your mind. Okay? Then the last two faults are very quick to go through. The next one that comes is not applying the antidote. Okay, so you may have overcome the first three, but then you don't bother to apply the antidote. So the remedy to that one is applying the antidote. Okay, so whatever the antidote is to get your mind back on the object and eliminate that particular fault. And then the last fault is over-applying the antidote. In other words, you've dealt with the problem, you've gotten your mind back, and you still continue to apply the antidote. And then the antidote becomes a distraction, okay? It's kind of like, you know, as a parent, when your child's acting out, you tell the child to calm down, the child calms down, and you keep telling him to calm down. Okay, so that only makes more problems. Okay, so those are the 5 faults and the 8 counteractive measures to them.
Mm-hmm. So you have an active mind, you realize that you need to do some death meditation, and you feel that your mind gets sober, but then you're so into your death meditation that you don't really want to go back to the object. I mean, is that exactly what...
Wait a minute, say that again?
So you realize that you're really off in your mind. My mind is hyper. So to do it, so to stop and meditate on
death.
And do the 9 points.
Yeah.
But by the mind gets sober, I'm actually so into the 9 points that there's a point where I go, well, should I stay with where I am because it's actually having a meaningful effect?
Oh, okay.
Or should I go back to where I left off, which
okay.
is my intent? Okay.
So the question is, if you're doing a retreat to cultivate serenity, okay, then you use the antidote of the death meditation to calm your mind down to the point where you can then bring it back to your object of meditation, which is the figure of the Buddha or the breath or love or whatever it is, because that's the main focus of your retreat, okay? You're saying that you start to do the death meditation, it starts to bring some real experience, so you don't really want to go back. I would say that if you're doing the white Tara meditation, okay, this same thing, you know, it depends on in what context you are meditating on death, okay? If you sit down to start your meditation and you realize that your mind's really hyper and you meditate on death in order to calm your mind and help you get a good motivation, then stay with your death meditation, okay? Because that's the purpose that you're trying to use it for, is to calm your mind so you can do a meditation so that you can do the Tara sadhana. Okay, so that's one context of using it. Or maybe you're doing the death meditation at the end of the Tara sadhana because it's one of your Lam Rim meditations that you're doing. In that case, stay with it because there it's your Lam Rim meditation. If you're in the middle of the sadhana and you're trying to develop serenity and some concentration on the on Tara as your object of meditation, then you would use it insofar as you need it so that you can go back to your object of meditation. Okay? Yeah? Mm-hmm.
If in trying to create the vivid intensity of the object, the mind becomes tight, like we were talking about. With
Right.
Being too tight. How do you work with that?
Then you meditate on death again. Okay, so you see when we're talking about excitement and laxity, okay? In excitement, the mind is too tight. In laxity, the mind is too loose. Okay? So you're saying if your mind's too loose, you meditate on something to uplift it, and then it gets too tight. Okay? Well, try and just meditate on something to uplift it to the point where you need it. Okay? You know, we really tend to be extremists. Yeah? And it's like the water's too cold, so then we put our hand in boiling water. And then it's too hot, so we hold ice. You know, we're just too extreme. We need to get somewhere in the middle. Okay? Yeah. But this happens in all areas of our life, isn't it? You know, we so often just go from flip-flop from one extreme to the other extreme. We don't know when to stop. Yeah.